The session is entitled New Frontiers in Video-Based Collaboration, and we're going to take a look at two solutions in that arena, Adobe Connect and LifeSize High-Definition Video Conferencing. My name is Mike Kubit. I'm the Director of Media Vision at Case Western Reserve University. Actually really excited to be here. This is actually going to be a really jam-packed session, so we're really going to fly through. Unfortunately, in hindsight, we probably could have split these out into two separate tracks. There's so much content here, and we have a ton of technology, so we're going to kind of keep our fingers crossed and buckle in, and the tech guys have done a lot of work to make sure that everything is functioning. So today I'm joined by John Vorpe, Regional Sales Manager for LifeSize Communications, Ed Hemphill, the Senior Sales Engineer for LifeSize, Dave McCann, who will actually be joining us virtually. He is the Senior VP of Technical Service for LifeSize Communications. And special guest Megregany is a Goodrich Professor of Engineering Innovation and the Director of Science and Technology Application Center from Case Western Reserve University. He'll be joining us virtually from his home office in San Diego. We're also joined by, to my left here, Tim Plumer, the Senior Solutions Engineer for North American Education Sales Adobe Systems. Hope Johnson, who will be joining us through a Adobe Connect session. She is a technical trainer from the University Technology Training Center at the University of Minnesota. And Ted Hans, the Director of Enabling Technologies, I love that title, from the University of Michigan Medical School. So same thing as the format of the last session. We're gonna about 15 minutes for each technology, and then we want to spend about maybe 10 or 15 minutes or so at the end to make ourselves available for Q&A. So we're going to go ahead and get started with Adobe Connect, and I know Tim has got a session up and running.
To talk about Connect in 15 minutes with 3 different people plus this cadre of friends of mine online is tough. First off, folks on the speakerphone, can you hear me and can I hear you? Say something.
Richard, yes.
Okay, specifically Jerry.
I can hear you.
Okay, can we turn him up just a little bit, because I'm going to ask him to relate a story that I think is relevant to what Connect is. Jerry, go ahead and speak again. Just tell me your name.
Hi, everyone. This is Jerry Silverman.
Okay, does that work for everyone? Can you hear that? Okay, good. So my name is Tim Plumer, and I can't cover all of Connect in 15 minutes or even probably a day and a half. So what I'm going to do is ask my friend Jerry, whom you can see there online, to relate a story about one of the things that this product does. And before I do that, I will set the stage in case you're not familiar with Adobe Acrobat Connect Professional. It's a Flash-based collaboration tool. And we don't pit it against video conferencing, although it has some video conferencing-like features. I mean, you can use web cameras. I think you would argue that if you were doing a professional video conference, the web camera might not be enough quality. But it's not bad for collaborating. In fact, Lynn is the woman there in the middle with her cat, is adding a little bit of flavor to the session by letting us know that she has a cat. Jerry Silverman, who is another colleague of mine from Adobe, use this technology almost every day as a way to collaborate around our ideas. And part of the reason that we've got the little map up there is to show you that that's a little flash map that was actually a plug-in. In fact, if you want to click on the plus sign there, you can zoom in and kind of bring it up a little bit. It's just a little plug-in that was created by one of our partners. It's a little flash file that you can throw into the mix, and it lets people tell you that, we've got people from all over the country connected to this session today. And being spread out and remote as we are, we use that frequently. So Jerry, I'd like you to relate your story that we discussed about having to step in and take a swing.
Sure. So I hope everyone can hear me and see me video sharing down there in the corner. I see myself. So Tim asked me to speak a little bit about an experience that I had with Connect, and I have this experience all the time as a solutions engineer who is on the road and giving presentations of some of Adobe's other Creative Suite software products. I'll often be called with maybe 10 or 15 minutes notice to give a presentation to a group that is maybe sitting in Chicago or sitting in St. Louis or sitting in another city, where the person who was originally scheduled for that event or for that venue is unable or is being prevented somehow from giving that presentation. One example that comes to mind is that a fellow solutions engineer was in Tennessee, I think, for a presentation, and he was going to be doing a remote presentation to Chicago, to a group of customers, Adobe customers, who were in Chicago, who wanted to know the latest and greatest features of the web technologies that Adobe is employing. And I have my speakers off, by the way. And so this solutions engineer was having a really bad internet connection, and he was having a hard time getting a good phone signal, and the location where he found himself was kind of noisy, a lot of ambient noise. I think he was in a hallway. He wasn't even in an enclosed space. So giving a web presentation would have been very difficult for him. So he called me, and this was given 10 minutes before the presentation, and said, "Can I hand this off to you?" And he sent me by email a link to his room, to his Connect chat room, which is what you're seeing right now is a Connect chat room. And I logged in, and I saw that he had a PowerPoint deck and a bunch of, kind of video clips and a few JPEGs that he wanted to show for this presentation. So I was very easily able to go into his room, take his presentation materials, look at them, figure out the dynamic of his presentation, and also share my own screen at the same time. After I presented his materials, I was able to share my screen and do a demo for him of those technologies. So it was very powerful, and it came in and it saved the day at the very last minute. And so we also got to showcase the power of Connect to those particular customers. So it was a win-win situation. It really came through in a pinch.
Thanks, Jerry. And what he's talking about is the fact that Connect, everything is persistent in Connect. So he was able to step up and use that person's slides because they were there. So he didn't have to upload his own slides. He didn't have to go find some slides. He didn't even have the slides for that presentation. And in fact, to demonstrate that, Hope, are you ready? I'm going to throw it over to you because I've got Hope standing by, and she's got some presentation content that she wanted to just quickly talk through. And because we loaded it in the room, literally, if she had to go down the street and log in from a library because a meteor hit her house, the content that she's going to work with is available. And so we're going to go ahead and load that. And Hope, it's all yours.
Hi, I'm sorry, my phone was on mute. So hopefully now you can hear me. I'm in a noisy office today. I've got a large truck shredding documents outside of my window. And I have an office mate who's probably going to be hearing a lot more information about Adobe Connect than she wanted to hear today. But just to give you a quick overview of how Adobe Connect at the university works is we have it centrally supported by Office of Information Technology, which I work for. So we provide training and support for all of our coordinate campuses and all of our faculty and staff. So our whole University of Minnesota community uses this tool, or can use the tool. And that actually includes guests of the University of Minnesota, so people who are either part of our large network of extension providers, or even coming here for non-credit courses and other things can join in and use Connect meetings. The three common uses by popularity actually are for on-demand web presentations. So people really like to use it as a content delivery tool. Also, we do on-site support for large events. So we frequently use it to webcast and archive events that go on here at the University of Minnesota, sort of an outreach tool, so to speak. And then online training. We have a large initiative here at the university right now that is using it for competency-based training for our new financial system. So those are the three areas that we use it. Some things that we've kind of learned over the last 3 or 4 years that we've had this tool on campus. First we had FlashCom, then we had Breeze, and now we have Adobe Connect. Some things that we kind of tell people or coach people through when we're either training or providing support for people using it. We try to remind people that it's like driving a car. You really have to get used to where everything is and how to use it all and learn how to multitask. So if you can, maybe knit and watch TV and have a conversation or drive a car, you can use Connect. We call it Connect here at the University of Minnesota, but for you all know it as Adobe Connect. Secondly, all at the same time, yes, knit, drive a car, and do everything all at the same time. That's very dangerous, and I don't recommend it. So audio has been our biggest hurdle. Now, we don't have integrated phone conferencing with Adobe Connect here. We actually have everybody use it as a web conferencing tool and use audio and video through the web interface. So that's always the biggest challenge, is getting people to understand how to get their microphones and headsets to work properly. And a lot of times we do that very in like little coaching sessions that we do. Next, we try to also tell people to try to keep the collaborative groups small. So 5 to 7 people working together really is kind of a good number to keep in mind to do collaborative work, because again, people need to get used to the interface and know whose turn it is to talk and how to use all the tools. If you add a whole bunch more people into it, sometimes the progress can get derailed by somebody just not knowing how to use the tool or not knowing how to get people's attention when they want to speak. Two other really quick things is we try to divide up the work. Anytime we're doing like training, we deliver live training through Connect as well. We try to divide up the work. So we have people who are presenting, we have people who are moderating and watching for questions. And then we really try to assign one person to deal with technical problems. So if there are questions about audio or latencies, that person can address that. And the person who's presenting doesn't have to sort of halt their presentation in order to deal with those issues. And always, always, always test everything before you start. So those are some of the lessons we've learned as we've used this as our main web conferencing tool here on campus. Basically, because we don't have a large infrastructure for video conferencing. Most of our infrastructure is ITV-based or just classroom audio and video within classrooms themselves that don't have connections to high-end video conferencing tools like LifeSize. So that's it for me.
Thank you, Hope. Audio certainly is a hurdle, especially if you're using voice over IP, which is, again, why as a professional presentation tool, it's something that needs to be thought about. As a collaboration tool, the audio works, and it actually works pretty effectively, especially when you're just, like I say, working together towards a goal. I want to throw it over to Ted and give him an opportunity to make his comments, and what I'm going to do is jump to a slightly different layout, which is more of a discussions-based layout, which is really designed for the purpose of collaboration. Ted doesn't have slides, but he would like to make a few comments. Ted?
Sure. You can hear me?
Quite well.
Good. Well, I'm for the medical school, and we do a lot of video conferencing, room-based up to uncompressed HDTV video conferencing. But what we wanted was a solution that anybody could get to from anywhere, cross-platform, Mac, PC, Linux, for administrative, research, and educational uses. And so we deployed Adobe Connect in a way that has sort of surprised me in terms of its pickup, in that we have really eliminated distance as a barrier for any kind of collaboration. And the uses we have are a little bit different from what you just heard from Hope. We have faculty running office hours. We have journal clubs. We have faculty who are on sabbatical running their lab meetings from coffee shops many states away. We have national clinical trials networks. We have research collaborations from around the country, and it's really the growth. We grew from sort of a business case we had for a small group of 20 users last June to where we have over 1,000 users today. And out of a community of 2,000 faculty, that's pretty good in terms of the take-up of this tool. So we're really have learned a lot of the same lessons that Hope laid out. We do use the integrated audio conferencing service, so we have people participating by cell phones if they can't get to a desktop even. So it has been a tool that's been used for all these environments, and we do the kind of training that you heard about. But it's students, faculty, staff, and collaborators around the world who use this platform to, as I say, blow away time and distance as a barrier.
Thank you, Ted. And I'm sure we'll open it up to general questions. The one last thing that I wanted to point out was that as an ad hoc collaboration tool, we've mentioned desktop share, and due to time, I was going to have my colleague Lynn with the cat share her desktop and show you a couple of things, but I do need to throw it over to my colleagues here. So what I want to point out is that the process of collaborating includes more than just talking, some nice video cameras, but can do everything from, Lynn's going to go ahead and grab the desktop. I can actually request control of Lynn's desktop here, and if she needs me to show her how to do something, she's on a Macintosh, I'm on a Macintosh, but it wouldn't matter. If we were on Windows or Mac, we could actually work back and forth directly and touch each other's workstations to help each other. So it's about a lot more than just simply presenting. So with that, we've gone a little bit over our time, and I do want to throw it over to our colleagues. Thank you to Hope, Lynn, Ted, Jerry, and the rest of my Adobe colleagues who've joined in for that. So
just one point in transition. So we've actually been beta testing the Adobe Connect solution here on campus since the beginning of the academic year. We've actually found it really easy to deploy, really easy to customize. And one of the things that you may have noticed when Hope was speaking was that even though she's dialed in on a phone bridge, the lip sync actually between her webcam video and the phone bridge was actually quite good. And given the sort of the path that those signals are taking, that's actually pretty impressive to be able to accomplish. So we are in the process of doing a scaled upgrade to be able to prepare for production services in the fall, and that also is something that's been relatively painless for us in the IT community to make available to the campus. So now we're going to toss it over to John and his colleagues from LifeSize.
How's everybody
Thanks,
doing?
Tim.
How's the energy level in here? Is it as high as the heating level in here? Is everybody comfortable? So, real quick, the gentleman in the top right is David McCann. We kindly refer to him as our chief propeller head. And he's got a wonderful sense of humor, though you can't see it on his face right now. And Fatih, I believe, has joined him. Fatih, how are you? We don't hear their audio
straight
yet.
from our
Oh, there you go.
office joined us here today as well.
So Ed is actually from Austin. He's one of our national sales engineers. The product that we make that we're using is basically 3 components. There is an HD camera sitting right under that screen that we manufacture from glass to glass. There is a compression decompression engine behind the screens here, a very small codec. And then there is a HD quality telephone sitting up here on the desk that we're probably not using from a miking perspective. So David, if you could take us kind of through your little bit of background and then what we do at LifeSize that's a little bit different, and kind of we'll open it up from there.
Absolutely. So LifeSize as a company is about 5 years old. We're based out of Austin, Texas, as you can kind of see here in the background, to prove that we're actually in Austin. And the company itself was really founded on 3 fundamental principles. Traditional video conferencing in the past had always been a collaborative tool that a lot of education has used in the past, but there were fundamental flaws to it. It was kind of hard to deploy. It was hard to utilize. In terms of the implementation around it. And then the third biggest one was quality and ease of use. So LifeSize as an organization was focused on bringing a better quality experience to the world. And we have through a suite of products. Today, like John said, we're using the LifeSize Room system. But we have a plethora of endpoints, everything from the LifeSize Room system all the way down to a very cost-effective solution called the LifeSize Express Unit, which is about this big, and it retails for less than a traditional video conferencing system. And the sole focus of LifeSize was to really bring to market HD communications. And I'm sure a lot of you in the room have seen a traditional video conference and kind of utilized it, where you have a very grainy picture. It's doing what they call a SIF-based resolution, which is 352 by 288 pixels, which is kind of like a really bad VHS tape. And the focus of LifeSize was to build a communications device that was as cost-effective as traditional video conferencing, but at the same time provide about 10 times the experience. And that's really what we've really focused on for the last 5 years. And the innovation is really in a couple-step banner, like John kind of touched base on. One was traditional video conferencing had always built its own, had always OEM'd cameras within their systems. LifeSize has gone down the path of what we call a glass-to-glass strategy. We actually manufacture everything from the little lens on the front of the camera all the way through the encoding engine, like John said, what we call the codec, which provides both the encode and the decode compression algorithms, and then the LifeSize phone or mic pod. We have a various mic import sources on the system. And really, what it was focused on was the ability for, in a classroom scenario, in an office scenario, any type of scenario within an office or a classroom, to be able to walk in and make a video call and make it really crystal clear, and not kind of to break the bank, because we know that obviously budgets are fairly high. So what we've done, obviously, is kind of what we're doing today. We're doing an HD video conference over the open internet, off of that connection in Europe, or where you guys are, and connection back here to Austin, Texas. And we're actually doing a multi-point call as well. So we have a collaborative effect of being able to do communications between multiple locations. With a room system, you can actually do it up to 6 different locations, and also share content. So one of the important things that we do with the system is allow the guys from Adobe talked a lot about this, is the collaborative effect of being able to communicate with people, but all at the same time send content. And LifeSize does that in a very simple manner, literally like you would ever walking into any conference room. You have the ability to walk in, take your simple VGA connection like you do a projector, plug it into your laptop, whatever that source may be, a DVD player, whatever communication that you're wanting to render to the far side, and simply either select that as a primary source, so source that instead of you seeing me like this, or literally picking up the remote and using a thing called H239, which is the ability to send content and people at the same time. And we can do that in a bunch of various ways. And what I'll do here is I'll just send a quick presentation. One of the unique things about LifeSize, obviously, is we do have the ability to, and if you know anything about video compression, to do 30 frames of HD communication. So I can wave my arms around. I still look clarified. Fatih can still look like he's sitting next to me, not wanting to be here. And obviously, then be able to send you a presentation as well. And you can see I can send a presentation in full screen, or in this standard manner, I'm actually sending a 4:3 aspect ratio. Super easy to utilize. When I'm done with my presentation, I simply hit the one-stop button. It really goes along with the message of LifeSize being an easy-to-use application. And we think that the adoption of communication devices such as LifeSize or even Adobe Connect is only growing in the market. A couple years ago when we started LifeSize, one of the core things that we talked about was the need for HD communication and better quality in the marketplace, especially in education where there's tons of bandwidth and a lot of use of video. And the pushback was always we really don't need any greater quality than what we have today in our video conferencing systems. And then you would show a person what a LifeSize system or an HD video conference looks like. Today it's more like it's a needed thing. It's kind of one of these things that everyone's adopted as a technology and as an idea. So what we're doing is really kind of today is looking how we can innovate and make it more easy to use from a consumability standpoint, price and effect to our end customers, and also how, what other features that we can add to the existing architecture.
You remember the days where you would never wear a striped shirt like that? You would obviously never have a window open behind you so you can see your own reflection. And it would absolutely, with any motion, a striped shirt or a non-blue colored shirt would completely tear up the video sync, right? Those days are gone. The product that David referred to, the LifeSize Express, there were really 4 endpoint products, so this is the top of the food chain that we're using here. The bottom of the food chain, so to speak, is sitting right outside that door. There's one actually in a video call out there. It's a $5,000 US list product. Has its own camera the size of a large shotgun shell with microphones in it. So that's kind of that small office, home office, executive desktop. You couple that with a 21-inch DVI-based monitor, and you're off and running in HD video. And one of the things that you should know from a connectivity standpoint is we produce an HD 720p image at 1 megabit. You don't lose that high quality if you don't have 1 megabit. So DSL cable modem, home office type connections, we don't drop you all the way back to 4CIF or CIF or standard def video. We scale it down and stair step it accordingly. So you can do a DVD quality call at roughly 512K. All right, and if anybody wants to stay around, we'll show you that.
One of the things that actually is really impressive about the LifeSize product is the integrated phone pod that we have up on here. You can tell that John's used to using that because he's killing our audio guy by sitting about 4 feet away from the little pencil microphone here. So a little contrast in the technology.
I walk anywhere in the room and that thing will pick you up.
Right. So we're also really excited to have Megregany with us from San Diego. We worked with Megran earlier in the academic year. He has his office there in his home and needs to be able to interact with his colleagues back here in the university. So we're going to kind of throw it to Megran and sort of let him tell you about his experience and how he's been able to use that in his day-to-day operations. Thanks, Megran, for joining us today.
My pleasure, and thanks for giving up your lunch period this morning here, so I'll say good morning. This is Case San Diego office, essentially. It's a sort of a standalone office in my home that I'm using. I moved to San Diego in July of 2007 to establish a presence for the university out here for the purpose of developing research and educational programs by tapping into the industry base in California, in particular starting with Southern California. One of the issues or the hypotheses we had was that with present technology, I could interact with my group back at Case fairly transparently. I have a large group of about 17 back on campus, about 10 PhD students, a couple of master's students, postdocs, engineer, and a technician. And I do have the advantage of running my group pre-organized and in a way where the students and the researchers come to me when they need direction and when they encounter problems that they can't solve. But for the most part, I train them to be independent researchers. So with that context, the first 6 months, we did not have the LifeSize system in place. And much of my interaction for when I was in San Diego was by email and phone, and tapping into the meetings by phone conferencing. And that was not effective at all. There's just something about human psychology of seeing the other party. And in fact, when I would go back on campus periodically, it was clear that my students felt that I was away. The video conference system went into place around January timeframe, and it entirely changed the quality of our interaction. I have an identical system in my office at Case. So my students essentially go to my office at Case, and we have a direct link. I'm able to see them, see their laptop, desktops, and a document camera, essentially, which in my area of research, we mostly use to see the devices or things the students work on. And in fact, it's sort of an incidental thing. The document camera has an outstanding zoom on it. And my area of research is semiconductors, where a lot of things are miniature. So we actually use the document camera to zoom in and magnify the parts. It's really effective. So for the most part, my interaction with my research group now is transparent. Interestingly, the psychology of my students and staff are when I come to campus, it's just, hi, Megran. It's sort of, they're used to seeing me very routinely. And they have a joke when people ask, where is Megran? They say he's on TV. And so it works very well. A couple of things I learned from this experience. Now, I have a regular home cable modem connection, with the exception that I upgraded it to a small business package. So it's supposed to have 2 megabyte per second upload and 15 megabyte per second download. And most of the time, the upload and download runs around 1 megabyte per second, it seems. But with that, we still get very good quality, and the interaction is pretty transparent. One of the things I learned, just the intangibles of this, is that if I've had the advantage that everyone in my group has been in my group for a while, and they knew me when I left Cleveland to be stationed in San Diego. I've had one or two new people since then, and until I was able to get on campus and sort of establish that personal connection with them, the video conference was got the job done, but it didn't have that personal connection. So what I've found is that it is very important somehow, either human psychology or whatever, to have established an interaction with the person on a face-to-face basis before the video conferencing, at least in my setting, can not only get the job done, but also have that human connection. The other challenge that I've faced is that even though I interact with my group now quite routinely with this, including the students can just drop by my case office and just dial to see if I'm sitting here working, just like dropping by my office at Case. That the campus community as a whole is not really conditioned to use video conferencing, so I'm often missing out on department meetings or School of Engineering meetings, but I think that it's just a matter of time before those get integrated and it gets more natural. So I see the technology as a significant enabler, at least in my work, to be where is best in interacting with leading edge companies and bringing that benefit to my group and to campus, while at the same time being able to interact with campus pretty transparently.
Great, thanks, Megran. Just sort of another story from the university. We had the opportunity to release several video conferencing opportunity grants to the campus just to be able to provide some of the technology to the departments. And we had about 30, just under 30 applications from across the university for departments that want to begin to use video conferencing in to support their operations and departmental initiatives. We are planning to use the LifeSize team units for that. So Megran, you'll be happy to hear that more of your colleagues will be accessible. So we want to take sort of the last 10 minutes or so to be able to answer questions. We just have one last little piece of magic here on the screen to be able to bring up actually both sessions. And what we're going to try to do is have all of our participants, including those that have been remote, to see if we can't get everybody up on the screen at the same time. Same thing, we have a runner in the back with a microphone. So if you have a question, if you could wait for that, that would be great. Thanks. Have a question down here? Actually, two questions.
Cool.
Can a life-size system interface with Polycom or Tandberg conventional conferencing systems?
You bet. So we follow a standard. We follow two standards. One is an H.323, which is kind of the ITU standard for telecommunications. So we'll interoperate with the traditional Polycom systems, Tandberg systems, even your old Sonys, Aethras, all the kind of the market leaders, as well as over SIP as well. So obviously a lot of organizations and manufacturers are moving to a SIP-based platform as well. And we support both of those in all of our products. Good question.
Specific technological question. With the LifeSize program, do you have something like a desktop share on your program so that when people are sitting there, similar to what Adobe has, the desktop share?
Right. We have a number of different kinds of products that address those needs, and so we have a bridging system called LifeSize Multipoint, which has the ability for people to use their PC and just use their web browser and immediately get into to a session where they could see Dave, where they could see everybody that's on the call, and also share presentations, chat, and so forth. We also are interoperable with a lot of different desktop products, so you could use NetMeeting, you could use any of these products that are actually able to make a standards-based call, and you'd be able to use that on your desktop as well. And we're also very interested in what Adobe's doing, and so there may be other things on the horizon.
Okay, if you have it at your facility, if you have one of these set up in your facility, do the other people that you're reaching out to, that you're going to be conferencing with, do they need to have this same setup in their facility?
Doesn't necessarily need to be the same setup. So we have, let's face it, in most entities, because they buy a couple of life-size systems to move to HD, that doesn't mean they take everything that they own and throw it in the dumpster. So generally speaking, we obviously have to interconnect with everything they may have, but they do have to have a video conferencing system of some flavor on the other end. That can be, in some cases, a desktop type, but it's the old principle of I'm sending you a very high-res image and you're sending me back a webcam, so you get what you
get what you have, right? But the nice thing is, since we are standards-based, as Dave was talking about, you can slowly migrate in this. So you don't have to forklift upgrade everything that's in your organization. You can go and you can put a life-size in and still be able to get connectivity with all the video systems you have out there. And then over time, you can start gradually moving the rest of your organization to HD as budgets permit. So.
Just another quick anecdote from the university's perspective. So we actually received sort of an evaluation unit from LifeSize pretty much early on in the product life cycle, and we had a surgeon over at university hospitals that wanted to be able to demonstrate an outpatient surgery to actually a group of donors who happened to be, by the way, eating lunch at the same time. What we found is that the technology was actually really pretty bulletproof to deploy, and the quality was good enough that, you know, several of the folks actually had to get up and sort of leave the room in the middle of lunch because it was, you know, I'm not sure who made that choice. But as far as the immersion factor of the quality, I think that's an important piece of that as well, is the fact that the more realistic quality really kind of draws you into that session, where you can really pay attention to facial expressions and sort of nonverbal cues that maybe you wouldn't be able to see with other technologies. So we have time for a couple more questions. Okay.
Hi. A couple years ago, I know that Case was involved with some other universities in multiple locations with a dance program. Yes. And I was wondering if that's a whole different kind of setup, or if some of these things can be used to collaborate with other performances, whether it's, you know, a dance or a play or a fireworks display, sure, or whatever it happens to be.
That was DVTS transport, so it's not really a commercial product that's available. This would serve sort of the same need, and in fact we know that our dance department is actually using video conferencing regularly to support their academic programs.
There's a couple of applications that we're kind of approaching that uncompressed video quality at a very low cost, and so maybe David can talk a little bit more about house productions and casting as to the specifics, but that's a New York and LA based customer. And then also, not obviously in my territory, but these products are used at the Philadelphia Symphony, I believe, to deliver, in essence, virtual field trips
across
and concerts across open internet too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm going to ask a propeller head question, but are your there you go. Are your HD codecs compatible with those of Kodian and Radvision and the other MCU manufacturers?
Yeah, absolutely. Like we were mentioning earlier, we're all standards-based, and so the Kodian products, the Radvision products are standards-based products as well. And so while we were kind of the first to introduce HD to the video conferencing market, we've quickly had a lot of people that have jumped on the bandwagon with us, and now pretty much all of the major vendors have an HD product that's out there, and they're all intercompatible. So the only differences was with the traditional video conferencing, you had certain resolution sizes. Now with HD, you have a lot more flexibility, and that's because 264 has a lot more flexibility in sizes.
Okay, so the in HD mode, they are compatible. It's not. It won't go down to CIF.
No, we could talk to a very old bridge. We could talk to a very old system if we needed to as well.
Right.
So.
Yeah, we have a Radvision bridge here on campus, and it was pretty seamless from the time we dropped in the first endpoint.
Thank you.
Yeah, and to a good point, you know, as over the last year or two, you know, HD has kind of emerged from a video conferencing standpoint to be kind of the dominant, you know, kind of thing for the last year or so. And each one of the vendors works very, very hard to make sure that we do interoperability, like you asked, you know, in 720p HD, 30 frames per second.
Okay, this is for Hope in Minnesota. She mentioned that she'd use this for events, and then also said that it was good for smaller groups, like 5 to 7. So I'm wondering what kind of events you've done with the Adobe Connect and how many people attended?
Okay, we have done, so we've done webcasts of some of our sort of seminars. For example, we have a digital media center here at the University of Minnesota, and they have a technology-enhanced learning seminar that we deliver through the web using Connect. We use chat Q&A to collect questions from the online audience. You know, the nice thing about those events is we actually are in a room that has audio and cameras in the room itself. So we don't have to bring in gear to sort of mic and camera the room itself. We have done other events in a similar kind of fashion and have had up to 150 people join in and watch remotely and ask questions in that method. Was there another part to your question? I know you were just asking about events and people.
Well, I'd had the idea a few years ago before we knew anything about any of this, but to bring in for homecoming events, to have some of the events broadcast and try to bring in alumni from around the world to chat while the event was happening. And I just wondered, you know, how feasible it might be at this point for us to do something like that at this.
May I offer an anecdote also? Hope, did you, I'll let you speak first, sorry.
No, go right ahead. I mean, all I was going to say is the reason that we've used this particular tool is just exactly what you said, because we want people to interact back. I mean, there are other technologies, you know, that stream better, you know, and have better quality audio and video, but this tool does that interactivity, which is key for a lot of our customers who want to deliver something out but get audience participation.
And I'll very quickly offer the anecdote. I was just at the Rochester Institute of Technology yesterday, and they told me about last year during graduation, they offered a Connect booth basically with, it was a higher quality camera connected to the computer, and they offered the ability for graduates to speak to their parents who were overseas or not able to attend. And the advantage there was that these people could literally go to the public library and watch this happen, plus it was recorded so that they can provide that as a URL for later use. So those kinds of things are definitely feasible and being done.
Right. One of the things that we is included in the upgrade that we're working on right now is an events module within Connect. We've had an ongoing conversation with Alumni Affairs here at the university, and part of that is to begin to offer those types of events online in the fall. And that events module basically creates sort of a virtual seminar room or event room, so you could do pre-registration and email and stay in contact with your attendees. So just for that intent. I think we have time maybe for one last question.
Yes, I was wondering with the LifeSize about a learning curve, the interface that's used. I see you using remotes a lot, and I'm not sure I can use one of those if I'm not sitting on a recliner, but have we...
I'm starting to shake myself. It's not close enough to me.
I see. There's no beer up there to grab,
exactly,
though, right? Okay. And I don't know if there's any sports up there either. But the thing is that if we were talking about putting it in the hands of a number of users, perhaps students even, how much training, how much work to learn this interface is required?
Well, I like to say that, you know, at LifeSize we kind of had three key tenets that we tried to work on when we created this system. And first of all was picture quality, because without high quality video, there's no point, really. Another key tenet was simplicity. And so if you look at the interface, and I'm just going to go back from the screen, we're still in call, but you can see it's very much like a set-top box. And so I think where it's difficult for people is people that are very used to using traditional video conferencing systems. They get used to the keys. And of course, that's always a challenge when you migrate from one product to another. But with this system, you can see, I think for a student or someone that's not familiar with video, it's going to be very similar to using a computer, very similar to using a set-top box that they might have at home. And so I can just navigate. I'm going right, left, and then if I just go up and I press OK, just like clicking the button on a computer, boom, I see our local view. Okay, and then just like a web browser, I press the orange button, I go back. And so you'll notice that down at the bottom, it tells me what all the keys do at any time. And so I think for users that are new to video, so I can go back again, and I can see it. And of course, Dave's actually controlling our far end as well. He has the ability to control our camera from his location. So I think for folks that are new to video, you can see from the interface, it's pretty simple. At least that's what we hope. And
I have a little mini anecdote. My 6-year-old occasionally accompanies me to the office on Saturdays where I'm catching up on email, and my 6-year-old figured out how to make a video call just by following the highlighted pattern. Because all the gaming stuff, you click OK when it's over the highlighted figure, and that's what it does. It just went over to the directory and clicked OK, and guess what? I was calling my friend in St. Louis on a Saturday morning.
Yeah, we have a redial list here, and you can see from the redial list, if I want to call, you know, the case test site, I just click on that, and there it goes. It starts it. So.
Okay. Great. Well, as I sort of mentioned when we started this, we could have very easily have filled up 2 separate sessions with these technologies. So I appreciate certainly all your attention. The tech team, I have to mention, this was actually a pretty impressive amount of technology to make work in one session of 45 minutes in length. So thank you for all of our panelists and our guests, and certainly thank you for your attendance as well.